Okay, I want to talk to you about, again, this concept of feeding forward and feeding back, right? It's actually not feeding back, it's more drifting back, because it's going to come, feedback's going to come whether you like it or not. So all of a sudden, we've got this energy that's moving out this way. So it's moving out. And it's going to hit its point of resistance. When it hits, Oriana, can you feel the point of resistance in your idea?
Yes, of course.
And so now what's happening is it's reached its boundary, and we've got to analyze what's going on. And we have to start saying, okay, now what's going to happen to you is you're going to get this drift. And it really is more a drift in the sense that it's hit its boundary and it's now going to loop back towards you. And now you have a choice. You understand my point?
Mm-hmm.
Is Manuel still with us?
I think his connection is unstable.
Okay.
So maybe he will come back.
Yeah. So, but you realize there's a resistance point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also something that goes on. This is like in and out, in and out, in and out. But there's also another thing that's going on. Welcome back, Manuel. So you start to see this thing here. And now we've got this idea, or the sphere in the middle. And this sphere in the middle starts to, then it starts to move out. And as it moves out, it's now starting to create different types of doubt. So it comes out, and it also has this. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And this exactly the same thing goes on. So now all of a sudden we've got this idea that, oh, it's now starting to form out here. And I don't know whether you can get a sense of what that does. Do you get a sense of what that does, Raphael? If you look at it as a dimension.
Another point of resistance.
Yes, but what does this point of resistance do?
You can create again a sense of regression in your own idea, perhaps.
Okay, so you've got a direction moving out.
Out and one going in, yeah.
And you've got one coming in, and then you've got this thing that's doing this.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's twisting.
Yeah.
All right. So Oriana, you starting to feel the twist in your idea?
Yeah, my idea had many twists.
Yeah. So it starts to twist and it folds and unfolds.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you've got feedback or feed forward coming from different centers. So that now this starts to come this way. And it starts to play on that. And of course, it hasn't broken through that. So now it starts to move back again. And how it drifts, it's probably going to drift towards the twisting and turning.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to be the new focus point. And so what that means in real terms is your idea is starting to manifest in different ways. And you're starting to realize there's more to it than what you originally thought. And now we have this entrepreneur that's come up and said, I've got this idea of how to link farmers to the end user customer, right? And so it's starting to twist again. And really the idea, in my mind, that you're talking about is getting funds for people to be able to live a better life, or to live a life that allows them certain necessities of life, you know, beyond. And so we get into this idea that you know, we can have healthy vegetables. You live really near the fruit bowl of the world, or the vegetable bowl of the world, in the types of fruits, the types of vegetables, the types of things that can be exchanged. So now we're talking about an exchange in a very different manner. What clouds both issues is money, right? And then it also clouds people by support. And how do we support this idea? Why would we support this idea? And so the thing that shouldn't crowd it is crowding it. You understand where this line here, can you see it's twisting as well? And so when you start to look at it, and you can start to see that you've got this boundary back here now too. And it's as it drifts to this way, it's setting its boundaries in different places, right? And so you've got this constant moving. Manuel, I hope this explains to you why it can't be passive. When you really start to look at it, it will twist, it will turn, it will rotate. Your idea will do a lot of different things. But we're never prepared for those, because we all think, oh, well, if I only get it moving by doing this. But Oriana, when I read your agreement, you're very clear about certain things and terribly unclear about others. And so there needs to be more definition so people can be part of it. It's not passive. And if you want, as an entrepreneur, you have to drive your idea. You have to take the setbacks, and as you take the setbacks, you have to say, okay, what does that mean? When you get your feedbacks coming back to you, and the feedback, whether we like it or not, is negative. And it's more powerful than the radiation or the positive. And so what it takes is a lot more effort and a lot more energy to go against, because you got to bust through that wall. And that's where you're at right now, Oriana. You understand my point?
Yeah.
And it's very hard to do as an individual. It's very hard to do. And in all of the work that I do, I talk to more people like you than anybody. Right? There is a lot of people that think the way you think, but they don't organize very well. They don't come together very well, because at some moment when they come together, there's all these questions, because we're people that question everything. But sooner or later, we have to be very clear about what it is that we're trying to achieve, and very clear about achieving it. And forget about all the noise, because let me ask you this. Do you have a bunch of noise in your life, Oriana? Around
No,
your idea?
not much. Only in my head.
Yeah, so you're not sharing it very much, are you? If you're not getting noise, it means you're passive about what you want to drive. You hold it here. You've got to expect that people will not always agree. That's just the way it is. Now, do you believe in what you're doing?
Yeah, of course.
Uh, I can tell you, I don't question it. You wouldn't be on this call and take some of the feedback that you've taken in if you didn't believe it, taken in, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't be here. So question of belief is not an issue for me. Question of experience and naivety is a very big issue for me, right? And it's because you have to go through this. You know, you're the sort of person that could lead Colombia in another 30, 40 years time with experience. No, seriously. And it's because that's how all, you know, all the things that start. They start with this individual that has this idea that says, this is what I'm going to do. Right? And they believe it. And they work towards it. But it's not a matter of making adjustments. It's a matter of evolving. Because you're always going to evolve, because these energies that I'm trying to draw on the screen now, they're there whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
We as beings don't control this stuff. This stuff is there whether you like it or not.
Yeah, our principles, like
Yes.
cause and effect.
Yeah, well, cause and effect, they're two words. And so now what you're looking at is you're looking at this thing, cause and effect. But in between cause and effect is something you're converting, or you're arranging or designing. So we say, oh, there's a cause and there's effect. But because we're so quick with cause and effect, we don't consider the lag time between what's caused and what is affected. You have a conversion. The betweenness is, what are you converting it to? How much drive do you have when you feed forward? That's converting, right? And arranging is knowing that you've got to take into account all of this because you're going to evolve anyway. And you notice when the lines cross here,
Yeah.
they don't go through. You notice the color changes?
Yeah.
You see, they don't go through it, they overlap it. So you've got overlapping. Even when we do drawings like this, you can see they don't go through, they overlap, they go over top or underneath. And so when you're looking at that, those are part of the designs that you have to look at. Traditionally, what most people look at is money. They say, do I have the money? Can I do this? Can I do that? Money is created by what you do. You make money when you're a slave. I don't know whether you understand that.
Can you repeat it?
If you make money, you're a slave.
Why?
Well, because somebody's paying you for your service.
Okay. Create money is different, right?
Creating money is totally different. Creating money, what you're doing is you're designing something so the money comes to you. Making money, you're a slave.
Yeah, I understand.
There's no other way of saying it. You know, there's a lot of history that talks about the pyramids being built by slaves. And then if you listen to Egyptian historians, they'll tell you, no, they weren't slaves. They were paid for what they did. But the toil then becomes, when we think about it today, we're thinking, why would anyone toil like that for that little bit of money or that little bit of food? Fact is, there was some level of exchange. There's always a level of exchange.
Yeah.
And so when we look at it and we say, oh, well, you know, those dumb Indians on the New York Island, they gave away the island for some shells. And we say, well, that's crazy. But in their mind, it was exchange. But so we get 200 years forward and we're saying, but you only gave them a handful of shells. So now what we're doing is we're saying, okay, well, let's not give you a handful of shells. Let's give you a handful of paper with a bit of printing on it. In another 200 years, that may be the same insanity as taking a few shells. In fact, it may be seen as worse. You know, the United States today, I don't know whether you guys follow the politics and the Americans very much, but they've just lifted their debt ceiling. And like, they're saying, oh, well, you know, the Americans are making that decision, but that reverberates throughout the whole world because the US dollar is the global currency. So what those guys do is they print more of that money and we agree to pay for that money. And sooner or later, we're going to start to say, historians are going to think, how stupid are these people that they would allow a population of 300 million to increase a debt ceiling so they can steal from everybody else. It's no different than giving shells. We just don't see it like that. It's still an exchange. And people agree to it. Okay, so they agree to it. So at that moment, it must be okay. But when they finally do, you know, in 100 years' time, you have to say to yourself, in 100 years' time, what would they say? And I would say that we've created a lot of slaves. We got a lot of slaves that all they want is money. Now, what I hear you saying is you want to create something that makes a difference, which all of a sudden has an exchange value, and we exchange it in money because we don't know any other way of doing it. Manuel, when I hear you talk about it, you talk about it from a nutritious point of view. So we want this body to be much better through its health. But at the end scenario is always leads back to money. That's why passive keeps people slaves. You want your slaves to be passive. Right? You don't want them to put into it. It's a lot easier to deal with pyramid builders if they're passive than if they're active. It's a lot easier to get people on board if they're passively slaves. That's just my opinion. But if you start getting it, Oriana, you'll start to see that you're making the decision and people are saying, but what are you getting paid to do that? But it's not about money. It's about you believing that you can change something and create something different.
Yeah.
You know, cryptocurrency, the way it's being brought out today is about money. It's not about trust or well-being or worthiness. It's pure money making. It's not creating money, it's creating slaves. Slaves to the Bitcoin, slaves to all of that. We've got to bust through that paradigm. And part of busting through a paradigm is the words we use. You understand my point?
Yeah, cryptocurrency is the same thing with other presentation.
What's that?
Money. Cryptocurrency is like money, but in other presentation. But
Yes.
it's the same.
Right, and I have no doubts it's evolution.
Yeah, it is.
And I have no doubts that we'll start looking at things like universal minimum incomes. It's easy for people in affluent countries to talk about universal incomes around 1,000 or 70,000 exchanging units, especially when you've got, you know, 2/3 of the world making less than, you know, on an annualized basis, 200 or 300 exchanging units. It's easy for us to say, "Oh, just give me $1,000, I'll get by." What about the people that get $2? Right? There's a whole exchange matter that has to be dealt with. And I don't think you're going to get it by having slaves. Does my drawing make sense? Any comments, any questions?
No, so far.
You see, so really it's only dealing with 4. There's more than 4. There's like all these different motions that are going on in the universe. My mind can get to 4. In and out, twisting and turning. When it twists and turns, it folds and unfolds. And so when you look at your agreement, you've got to look at how do we refine the agreement for the twists and the folds. Then we feed it forward again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Raphael, does this make sense to you? You're a student of this stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's again, watch what's happening, what's twisting and turning, and what you need in order to break through. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's
you need
just
to look at the whole. You need to look at all the emotions involved, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Manuel, have you got any questions?
Yeah. What about this kind of, for example, the investments that we saw in the game, and I personally have seen in the market, like you build a building and you rent it and you receive all this money each month, each week. In some way, it's passive. I mean, I've seen these guys. They have worked very hard, like 2 3 years, searching for the lands, doing all things with the mayorship, building the building that is very hard also. But after that, the money comes in a passive way. Of course, they have to take care of the tenants. They have to be in touch with the market if something changes about rates and everything, and pay taxes. I mean, it's impossible to something, maybe it's 100% passive, but I see some things that in some way are needing less effort, or needing they work in a smarter way than others. How what do you think about it? This
I couldn't agree with you.
philosophy.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's what design's about.
Yeah.
Design is about what you're talking about, doing ever more with ever less. It will never, not ever be passive.
Mhm.
And all the things that you described, you're describing less effort.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's not passive. The passive is a word you use for slaves. You want them to be a slave. Let me tell you that I have seen more people, and you can tell me about all the people that made a lot of money on real estate. For every one that you can show me made a lot of money, I'll show you 1,000 that did not.
Yeah.
Because they took it passively. The person who made the money, very active.
Yeah.
Very, very active. They're not people. Kiyosaki talks about being passive about his real estate. There's nothing further from the truth. You know, he talks about all these passives. Oh, I got Kenny, and Kenny's doing all this work. Bollocks. Right? He's doing ever more with ever less. But it's not passive. And when he says, oh, look at me, this is what I'm doing, and people take that as an example, he's creating victims. I don't think you want victims. And one thing I'm absolutely certain of, Manuel, you're not going to want victims. You don't want people knocking at your door, giving you aggravation about what hasn't been done. You told me this would be passive. You told me I wouldn't have to do anything. Do you know how many times I've heard that story? I've sat behind the great man, mate, let me tell you, and I've listened to more people than you can poke a stick at coming after him after they realized it wasn't quite what he expected. And what he says, and what I believe, 100% true. The best investment is education.
Mm-hmm.
The best investment that any of us can do is education that creates something else, that creates ever more with ever less processes. Oriana proved very conclusively in my mind that her process is ever more with ever less.
Yeah.
Right? You think about a transaction that goes from Australia to North America to Venezuela and all the way around. That's not a passive. Now, at some level, there had to be a lot of links in the chain that made that work. But each link had to want to make it work. Simple as that. And to say, oh, well, you know, if these people don't. No, I would not set myself up. I used to set myself up and say, oh, yeah, you got to do this, you got to do that, and yada, yada, yada. And I would do all the things that I thought were necessary. You know, I grieve at losing Mario on this call. Because I think he was a genuinely good guy. I think that he genuinely and his family are genuinely good people. Fundamentally stupid, but very good. They don't understand money. They sure as hell do not understand exchange. And they're full of, you know, rah, 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 and they're creating victims. And when you really get down to it, as people, they're as good at people as you'll ever meet. But where they run into trouble, and where I've always run into trouble, is thinking, don't worry, I'll take care of it. I can't take care of everything.
That is be responsible.
What's that?
That is be responsible for everything.
And be accountable.
Accountable.
Right? And so, look, when the second you get that, Manuel, the idea you're talking about, you know, the first guy I would talk to, without a shadow of a doubt, even though I got burned, like the blackness in my shirt, I would talk to Mario first.
Yeah.
Because he understands what you're talking about as good as anybody I've ever spoken to. He understands it. Now, would I be passive about it? No, I would not. Would I have better agreements? Yes, I would. That's the same thing with Oriana. It comes down to the agreement. And it comes down to making sure that people understand the agreement. And I thought I was pretty good at agreements, but I got a lesson, right? And I'm not going to begrudge somebody for that lesson. I'm just going to say, I got a lesson. And all of us get them. And so when you're starting to look at this thing, you have to look at resource as resource. Money is not necessarily a good resource. Money can burn you to death. And I think the last thing, the absolute last thing that you want is to be accountable to your slaves. You understand my point? Oriana, you know this well, because I'll bet you've had a lot of people say, I'd like to be part of that, and then they want to take a major part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you keep doing it, Oriana. It's okay. We'll give you some money. That's no problem.
Yeah.
Money today is almost worthless. Right? It's our minds have got to create something else. And I've always got that about you, Manuel. I've always got, you've got a pretty strong mind. Right? And so what I would say to you is consider the things that are being said. And you asked the question about passive in the beginning. I hope I've convinced you that passive, you take on responsibility and accountability you don't want. Now, can you do ever more with ever less? Yes. Can you do it effortlessly? No. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. That's what I think also. Nothing is never passive. If you're buying some apartment for renting, you need to know the market, the laws, taxes, everything. If you don't understand it, you are done. So that's, yeah.
Oh, but hang on, Manu. Let me be the guy that takes care of all of that for you. Don't you worry about it. Let me do all the worrying. You can be passive.
Well, there's some people that maybe do that, but they charge you so much because of your
laziness. But don't worry. You can be passive, mate. Don't worry. You can have all the risk. You can have all the risk too. If you don't mind, please take all the risk and be passive.
Mm-hmm.
Right? At some moment, we've got to understand it doesn't work. And, you know, we haven't buried it yet. It's still alive and well. It's going to get buried, and history is going to talk about it in a very different light to what we talk about it today, because they're going to, when we start talking about the Federal Reserve and we start talking about this money mania, we're going to have a very different history, and we're going to have very different views of it. There's nothing more certain in my mind than when we start looking at it, and we're going to think those Indians that traded New York Island for a few beads, we're going to think they're a lot smarter than guys that are exchanging $17,000 for $18,000 for not even the physical, something, you know, something in the concept like that. We're going to think, gee, were they really that stupid? And you know what the answer is going to be? Yes, they were that stupid. Anyway, Manuel, I open the floor to you before we go to Oriana and talk about her contract. Tell us what you're going to do. I hope I haven't taken the wind out of your sail.
No, it's okay. Well, I done this thing.
Do you want to put it on screen, and do you want to draw it on screen?
Well, actually, I am using an iPad, so I cannot do that. But I can.
I thought
show you
iPads could do anything.
I'm sorry, I don't know how can we how can I do it? Maybe the iPad is good, but Manu is not ready for that
So
technology.
now we're talking about capability, which is exactly a more with less capability. Look at these hands, Manuel. These hands have worked in hydraulic systems, and I've had to teach these hands how to work on a computer. Because I'm not that. I wish I was as capable as Oriana on the computer. It's clear that she's pretty good, right? But just think about these and what I have to do. You've got to teach yourself. You've got to get educated, mate. You've got to move at a speed. All right, show us your drawing.
Well, I will explain you. Okay, maybe the song.
So it's tetrahedral for a start, right?
Well, I took the diagram you show us about the idea. The idea is in the middle.
Yeah.
What I want to do is a club of organic consumers.
So a club of organic. So would you call that club a cooperative?
Yeah, in some way, because in the beginning, I just want to connect the consumers with the providers, the producers. But after that, because of nutrition interests, I want these people share ideas, share knowledge between them and between the producers. So in the beginning, it's just
okay. Just before you rush too far ahead, do you know what the difference between a club and a cooperation is, or cooperative?
Well, please explain me. Maybe I have another idea.
You know, they can both be legal terms, and they're both can be taxation terms.
Okay.
So it's very important when you're starting to do something like that, you're clear in your mind, because when you're talking about a club, is it not for profit or is it for profit? Is it a
This is for profit. For profit. I mean, club is like the marketing name of what I am searching for, but behind that there is a company. The company.
So why don't we call it venture?
Why?
Because you're venturing into something.
Okay. Yeah.
See,
Yeah. It can.
What's really important when you're looking at an idea like this, you have to define like its shape. And you know, when you use club, or we're going to get this organic club, or this organic society, or those words have very meaningful connotations. So the first thing I'd say to you, your idea, when you get in there, is just define that. I don't mean to hold you up. I just want to make sure I give you feedback. Raphael, do you understand my point?
Yes. Yes, you're talking about the constraints of the terms used. You want to keep the space as open as possible as the idea develops.
Absolutely. Then you close it down. Oriana, do you understand my point?
Yeah, absolutely.
And having had to go through it, it's quite painful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like It's not as simple. Idea is such a simple word. But when you define your idea, the more clarity you have with your idea, the easier it is to create the design. And so when I ask you about it, you're saying it's a club, and I'm sure that's what you mean. It's a club. It's a group of people that come together with a common idea. But
Yeah.
the second you put money in there, it's not a club as you know the club to be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know the other word that you would use in English, believe it or not, is church. Why church?
It's the same thing. You come together behind an idea or a belief.
It's a gathering of people to an idea.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't dare use the word church because you know you're such a religious society. You wouldn't use the word, but church is actually quite a common word when you bring. It's a gathering of people. That's what it means.
What about community?
Yes, community is a strong word. So you've got this organic community. Now you can divide it because community at that moment becomes a macro word.
Yeah.
So the second you understand that community is a macro word, now you can go to a micro word.
Organic is also a macro word.
Yes.
We are organic.
Yeah, organic's a macro word, exactly right. So it's going to be an organic community. They're both macro words.
Mm-hmm.
And so now when you start with a macro, you can say now we're going to develop the community. The way we intend to develop the community is in a cooperative for-profit club. You understand what I've just done?
Yeah.
It all comes down. Words tell the story, numbers measure the story, symbols really multiply the story, and focus divides the story. You've got to really understand that in the concept that we're developing. When you develop your idea, and you know, some people take their whole life to develop a single idea. But if they believe in it, they believe in it. That's just it. But what's time got to do with it? What's money got to do with it? But I suspect what you're talking about is an organic community. Now define organic.
Organic because all the products and all the people will value the that all the products, values, and ways of being and doing things conduct to an organic way. I mean, not only.
So are you going to eat cows?
Cows are organic.
Cows are organic.
In the beginning, I would need to be respectful about our tolerant, maybe not respectful, but tolerant. Chicken. In the places I am going, they don't eat cows. They eat chicken. I respect that.
Okay, so what you're saying is you can have organic meat.
Organic products and meat is
Okay, so define.
I wouldn't sell meat particularly, but because this is mine. But I like chicken, fish. Yeah, I am tolerant.
Yeah, but they're both organic. They're all organic.
Yeah, but I can choose some things. I can choose what not or yes, because in the end, meat is nothing of organic. I mean, it's meat contaminates, it pollutes a lot about the cycle of the meat. Chicken.
Yeah, but now you're being opinionated, right?
Well, I have numbers about it.
yeah, but you're still being opinionated.
Yeah.
Organic, or if you're going to use the word organic, Why wouldn't you use organic vegetation?
Because I don't want to focus only in vegetables, because I want to sell also soap. How do you say detergente?
Washing powder.
Um,
Washing powder.
Washing powder, bread tooth for
Yeah.
bread,
Yeah,
everything that
toothpaste,
is,
everything organic.
yeah.
Well, I think it's friendly environment products, not just organic.
Yeah, so now what we're talking about is biosphere friendly.
Biosphere friendly, yes.
Okay. I don't know if the people will understand.
Oh, but you can teach them. You can educate them.
But
That's the
that's the
idea.
whole point. You see, you're trying to fit inside something that people will buy, but you've got to believe it. And you believe it by saying, oh, I've got the numbers and I'm tolerant. You know, the people that made a lot of money in Colombia weren't terribly tolerant. One of the richest men ever to come out of Colombia at some moment was an absolute demon. But people loved him. You understand my point?
No, you were present.
Yeah, it's what you represent. It's who you are and what you're willing to tolerate or not tolerate. It's got nothing to do with the numbers. It's got to do with your energy, what you're going to push in. And really, the thing that I would say to you, the reason why Oriana's not moving really fast is because she's not able to organize people in the same thought. Right? And so now all of a sudden we put in these control mechanisms. We actually have to find people that can organize and can get jobs done and who are capable of getting jobs done. And unfortunately, most of the capable people can be on the dark side of light, if you like. You understand my point, Oriana? And you're trying to protect yourself from that by writing it into an agreement. But sooner or later, it's going to still come out, who am I? Who's this beingness? What does this beingness want? And can I attract other beingness to this?
People like you. Yeah.
And believe me, Oriana, I know a lot more people like you than you would believe. There's this whole undercurrent of people, but they don't have necessarily the drive you have or the capability you have, but they have the same thoughts as you have. Same with Manuel. I mean, the same thing applies, but we're caught up in this thing about the design. Now, if you're looking at design, I've always said to you, words are leading calibrators, right? And right now you're calibrating with your words. We're demanding of you, Manuel, to choose your words carefully.
Okay.
That's the point.
Yeah, the word. I think the words sets the boundaries of the idea.
Exactly right. So when you look at this thing, let me ask you, do you want victims or do you want partners?
I want people that want to be responsible and change and do a better world. Yeah, with this idea.
Okay, so my question is, do you want partners or victims?
Well, partners.
Yeah, and it's quite simply, a partner has to take a responsibility.
And share the risk.
And share the risk.
Yeah.
Right? And right now, when we look at it, when I look at it, and I look at the concept that Oriana's got, Oriana is at 100% risk.
Yeah.
Her. She's put her whole beingness into that risk. And what I'm saying, and what I have been saying for a while now, is she has to get other people that she can trust to move forward that will help her organize her risk. Can't do it on your own anymore. You understand my point, Oriana?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Manuel, we've made the point on the idea. go deeper into your ideas so that we can give you more feedback if you like. Feedback that you probably don't want. Are you okay with the feedback?
Yeah, yeah, I need it.
Okay, let's go to the next. We got the inner circle.
Okay,
And
about the agreements.
yeah, what I would say to you, Manuel, is choose your macro words, then choose your micro words. Do you know the difference?
Oh, I mean, macro would be community, and micro would be maybe the products,
It'd be
the
club.
Yeah.
okay, club. Okay.
Mhm.
And you always start macro, not micro.
Okay.
The first thing about design, as Fuller would say, start macro. Club's too small. I don't know whether you ever heard Robert say it, but having been around him for years and years and years, the thing he would always say, and if I heard him say it once, I heard him say it 10,000 times. People start small and get smaller.
Mhm.
Club is small.
Okay.
You've got to start macro and build your idea from a macro concept, not a micro concept. You understand my point now?
Yep.
So now I want you to write down macro and micro. What are my macro words of my idea? What are the micro words of my idea? And now where Oriana's at, she's at detail. And the detail's monotonous. Wouldn't you say, Oriana?
Yeah.
It's very monotonous. And it's very self-effacing. It's like, oh, really? Do I have to do that?
Yeah.
And
Okay, with like community, biosphere, those are all macro words.
yes. Country is bigger than community.
Yeah.
Continent is bigger than country.
Yeah.
You know, globe is bigger than country, and biosphere is bigger than globe. You have to know where you're going to start. You're talking about making a difference in an environment, which is what you said. It then becomes biosphere. Biosphere is the bigger thought. What's the bigger thought than biosphere? Yes, universe.
Mhm.
And you can't get it. You can't get outside of that. So now you got universe, biosphere, globe, continent, country, state, community. You've got all of those become micro words against the macro word. Club at the moment is just too small. You may only need to go one step out, but know what your macro word is. Okay? Okay, so I'm sorry about that. I interrupted you. Keep going.
One idea it comes to me, if it is good to start small and go and keep growing after that, when it is good to do that, or never is good to start small.
Never is, it's like passive.
Mhm.
There's no such thing. When you take small, it's only a degree, right? And so your thought has to be large, your action has to be small.
Small, yeah.
Okay.
So when you think out like this, it gives you a place to play in. Now you have your actions inside here. Now you can start saying to yourself, what actions will I take inside this space? Because remember, space is always first. It's not the chicken and the egg, it's the space that they both exist in. They both exist in space. You can't forget that. And when you create the space, you're creating the space as large as you can and then fit everything inside it. Because now your mind starts to work in that space. Does that make sense to you now? Your
It's
action
like
always
when
small.
it's like when the idea it becomes your reality. So your reality is all. It's your universe. It's everything. It's never small.
Exactly right. And you don't want to be hitting the boundaries of it to start, because now it's going to hurt. You need the space to get into. Does that make sense to you, Manuel?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. You always think with your macro thought, and then you take your immediate vital action. You see, what you're doing right now is the first action. And it's not even the first action. Drawing on your paper is the first action. Your first risk is sharing it with us.
Mhm.
Who knows? One of us might steal it and take it for ourselves. You know what that? Yeah. But you know what that is, Manuel?
What?
English, we call it flattery.
Flatter what?
You think my idea is so good you want to use it? Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
So if somebody wants to steal your idea, you're on the hot one. Okay, let's go to the next levels that you want to talk about. I think we've done macro.
The agreements, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Agreements are the next point. I have two kinds of agreements because I have two groups: the groups of the consumers and the groups of the producers.
Okay, so you're taking a bit
read
both
it.
ways.
Yes, I have two clients. Providers or the producers. What agreements do I have with them? Is first, help them about projecting their production, because there is, as organic producers, a lack of certainty of how much they are going to sell, and as this is organic, you cannot storage as
So
too
you're
much
talking about
time.
timing now.
Yes, it's very important to plan for them, because if they don't have so many days to storage their products. So that's what they told me. We don't know how much to produce this week, because we don't know if people is coming or they are not. So with this platform, what I am doing is to help them to have some certainty of production.
What
They
about
have
what about cryogenic production?
What did you say?
Freezing it.
Oh, some of them can be frozen, but some of them cannot, because, for example, or maybe they don't have the big freezer, and they don't want to invest in it right now.
Okay, so how do you get that? How do you get? I can tell you right now, Raphael, did we see that in action?
Yes, we did.
Very poorly done, but we saw it in action. Right? They're saying now that frozen vegetables done properly are as good as fresh vegetables in nutrients.
Yeah.
Does that expand?
I think so.
Your market?
Yeah, in the not vegetables, because what happens is these organic producers of vegetables, particularly, they don't produce. They produce like in the old fashioned. Maybe some carrots are bigger, smaller, maybe bigger. I don't know. People like to choose each of these vegetables, smelling, touching them. So maybe this would need to be to have people buying in this place. What I want to sell in the beginning, at least, is, for example, yogurt, milk, cheese, how do you say, oatmeal, eggs, some of these products that are more, how do you say, standardized.
Longer shelf lives.
Yes, and they, as I do, and a lot of people do, they buy every week the same product from the same people. So you just need to connect this. And in this platform, what I would do is to connect these consumers to these producers. Okay, I'm going this Saturday because these producers sell in a fair, in the street fair, all this production. It's called a bio fair here in Lima. So what I'm going to do is to connect these sales so the producers will know, okay, 10 people are coming to pick up these products this Saturday, and they of course are gonna pay in advance. So I'm gonna give the money, pay for this production, and these people are gonna just to pick up the products. And there's in the other hand, in the hand of the buyers, and as I happen, I leave it, is that because this production is not so big, you just arrive to this fair maybe Saturday, some hours at maybe 10 or 11 a.m., and the product you are searching for, it's empty. They didn't brought enough products, so you cannot buy from them. So for the consumers, it's good to pay in advance the buy, because they make secure the buying of the week. So I am helping both sides. And in the next step, I am presenting in the platform the goods, the values about each product. I mean, only nutritional point and healthy point of view, and I'm going to
So
search
your
for
platform's going to be digital.
yeah, it's digital. In the beginning, it's just a website, no, not an application, just a website. You just go. It would be like a fair. You just see a lot of products of these fairs, and the platform is gonna recommend you. For example, you're searching for products for kids, or maybe products for old people, and the platform is going to suggest, okay, this product is good if you combine this with this other product we have. So I do cross-selling. All of these producers are different. A guy produce the milk, another guy the oatmeal, another guy the eggs, and so on.
What you're really talking about is a digital marketplace, yeah?
Yeah, and digital marketplace in the beginning only by organic, and after that, when this grows, what I'm going to do is maybe do my own fairs in the streets, in the parks, in between a week, because these fairs works only in Saturdays and Sundays, but maybe Wednesday, and I can do a small fair where people can pick up the products. Or maybe I will value if I do the delivery. Some days in the week I rent a car and I do the delivery. I need to search for it in the next step. But in the first step,
Sounds like you're willing to work pretty hard to me.
Yeah.
yeah, what I would do is in the first, as people buy the same product all the weeks, it's like a secure buying. My value, offer of value, mi oferta de valor, it's the nutrition point, because all these people that values nutrition, not all of them knows the goods of the products they are consuming. They even don't know the why is it a better milk organic or a milk from the supermarket. They don't know. I'm gonna show in this nutritional part of the website how it's going to work with you, and after that I will be open this for the people that share this knowledge, and maybe they can buy more products. And in the fairs we invite another producers, and we create our own fairs. That's what I am thinking about in the beginning.
Okay, so let me sum it up in a couple words for you.
Okay.
You start off with high touch, and then you go to high tech.
I don't.
What you're talking about is people can touch and get to trust.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you're going to go to technology to do ever more with ever less. That's what becomes the passive or less active part of your business, so people can make informed decisions. And what you're talking about is an educational platform that creates buyers.
Yeah.
It doesn't sell to somebody, it creates buyers. And
Yeah.
so the things that you have to think about with that, if I'm thinking about that myself, and you're saying, if I can get a behavioral pattern of what somebody eats, then I can start managing the market. That's the way the world's going, Manuel. That's doing ever more with ever less. And now you're starting to look at it and you're starting to say, okay, this is where I'm going. Now, if you look at a lot of the multi-level marketing concepts that you're talking about, the reason why I have so many problems with them, that they're fundamentally not looking to do ever more with ever less. They're trying to sell to you. What you're actually trying to do is get people to buy.
Yeah.
It's 180 degrees from the other concept. And the tools that you're going to use is high touch and high tech. And what you're saying is the farmers know how to touch and they know how to do this, but they don't know how to do the tech side. You understand my point now?
Okay.
So as part of your idea, you've got to go back to your idea. It's not just about organic. Organic is you're creating a educational platform that entails organic, but not organic the way most people think about organic. Because what you're expressing is a tolerance. Everything's organic, mate. And what you're saying is organic. Do they spray the vegetables with chemicals?
No.
So if they sprayed them, how's it not organic?
Well, we trust really. That's
No, you're missing my point.
Yeah.
Are you trying to tell me chemical reaction is not organic? So you're placing a standard on it. And you're saying, this is our standard, and we believe that you'll get better tasting veggies. We believe that you'll get healthier veggies if we do it this way. But in reality, your production probably would not be as great. When we're going to use the milk and the cheese, did you know that there's a lot of chemicals that cows get fed, chickens get fed, all of that? We want to be that free, but it doesn't mean they're not organic. They're still organic. And so you have to define what organic is. Governments define organic, and marketing people define organic in a way that suits them. It's a load of horseshit. Organic is organic. We're organic beings, for gosh sakes. And so when you look at this thing, you have to have a very, very clear definition. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. Believe it or not, I actually agree with you in terms of the fruit tastes better. My strawberries are better than any strawberries you'll buy from the shop. I guarantee it.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't spray them. They're out there. The poor buggers have to fend for themselves. I just give them water. I don't even fertilize them that much. I give them stuff. But every time my granddaughter takes a strawberry, she says, gee, these taste good, Granddad. They're not like the shop, though. They don't look as good. They're not as big. But certainly they taste better and they're probably more healthy for you.
Yeah.
And then the question comes into, how do I add that value? So the things that you're talking about that are extremely obvious, you've got a connection. You've got the logistics between the supplier or the grower and the distribution of the growth. And then you've got the education of all of that on top of it. So it's a very complex issue. And so as you feed something out, bang, you hit this boundary and the feedback comes back and it twists in the middle. So you've got all this twisting and turning. It doesn't mean you shouldn't start. You should start immediately, which you already have done. You've already started. All we can do is refine, refine, refine. Be as clear as we can possibly be with you so that you can move forward with it. So you've got your agreement. Now talk to me about your exchange.
Okay, exchange. For consumers, healthy products, education about nutrition in general, and interchange and connect similar people with similar values and similar views of the consumption of nutritional products. For the producers, the interchange, steady sales, predictability in production and sales, organizing a production optimal, feedback from consumers, because in the platform they can receive good things and bad things, and also cross-selling. If my product goes very well with other product from other producer, we are gonna maybe do work better together. This is in the beginning.
Okay, and so I like the way you've done your exchange. How are you exchanging money?
Okay. About money.
I like what you're saying, but ultimately you're creating a business.
Yeah, for
Can
sure.
you tell me
Yeah,
about
you're
all
right.
your value adds. Tell me about the exchanging of the money.
Okay, consumers are paying for and getting secure about what they are expecting to receive in the fair. Producers are receiving steady money, and the platform is receiving a commission from every sale.
Well, what you're saying, not from every sale, every transaction.
Yeah, every transaction. Yeah, you're right. Every transaction.
Because all of a sudden you might do a deal with a taxi company or a logistics company that delivers, and you'll negotiate the best deal for the growers, and you want the best deal for the growers, but you want the logistics companies to be tipping a little bit into the middle.
Oh, in the beginning, I don't have this problem, because in the park we do these fairs. These fairs are working like 20 years, and all these producers come together in this fair, and the only thing they will need to do is just going and pick the products as every weekend. They don't need to pay the products, because they are already paid, and people are just has this custom to pick up these products every Saturday, and they buy another things in the park.
I'm sorry, but I think you have to consider if the clients are from other districts and
Yeah,
Miraflores or this central area. For example, you have to know the cost to send the package or the thing that one client buy, if it's from, I don't know, the north or whatever other district very distant from your center.
In the beginning, I only work with people that is going to this fair. In the second step, in the second period, I would think if it is better to do the fair in another location and have this product to be to pick to have ready to pick up for the clients, or maybe do the delivery in 2 days every week. I will need to invest to do the numbers about it. But in the beginning, I only focus in the consumers that already are using these fairs and these places. Yeah, but in order to grow, I need to check this. Yes.
Okay, so how do you see that you're adding value to the people that are already doing it?
Yeah, in two ways, because I secure my buying, my every week buying. I don't need to go and run and go very early to buy whatever I need because it's gonna be empty in some couple of hours.
Okay,
So
so stop. So first of
yeah,
all, what you're going to do is you've got a platform where people can come to you and say, at this fair, we're going to be there. Can you please reserve these vegetables for me? Can you guarantee I'll get those vegetables?
yes, they're gonna pick, for example, some milk, some cheese,
Okay,
some
so
eggs.
yeah. So they'll do that and it'll be packaged. All you need to do is go down to the fair, pick them up.
Exactly, and I receive the money, the deposit, and I receive the deposit. I pay to the producers, and I let them know. For example, Juanito is gonna pick up 3 milks. Maria is gonna pick up 2 eggs or whatever, and they already
All right.
has the
So
payment.
that side of it makes sense to me. Whether it works or not is another issue. But really, what you're saying is you're going to make connections in those fairs and start talking to people about how to make sure they reserve the best before it gets to
Yeah,
the market. Okay, now
yeah.
I understand. But in doing so, my question is, why do people go to the market?
Because they choose other products that are not, for example, some vegetables that are very special from of this. Maybe they play in the park also because there's a park where they do yoga, they go to the church. It's like the community. People
Yeah,
get together, have
exactly
some
my
coffees.
exactly my point. So they go there. It's a community adventure, if you like, more than it is just the vegetables. But you're talking about what if I get there and I don't get what I want?
Mhm.
Yes, that usually it happens
Okay,
because
so
the producers.
now you're bringing it together. So I think we've given you an awful lot of feedback. I'd like you to come back, send me a diagram, and I'll put it up and
Okay.
refine it because I like your idea, but I'm telling you right now, the guy to really look at your idea, if you can get an agreement, is Mario. That guy, that's what he does. He does logistics in vegetables and transportation. And I don't think you should ever go past somebody that knows something more than you do, and he does. Right? And it's whether you share that idea and he says, oh, no, we do it this way. He's already doing a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, but I don't think he has the discipline you do.
Yeah,
Understand my point, Raphael?
absolutely. Yeah.
Is there anything that you've heard Manuel say that we didn't hear at Veggie?
No. Pretty much the same concept. So again, it's a matter of talking to him and see what level of agreement you can reach with him to move forward.
Well, I don't know about even a level of agreement. I just think it's pick is really, without giving too much away, I think you should work out what he understands around the vegetable
Yeah.
markets, the pricings of the vegetables, the quantities, the suppliers, the logistics. That's what his expertise is.
Yeah, that's true. So
Veggie pizza is an anomaly for those guys. That was something his brothers thought of, but Mario is genuinely very good in the vegetable market,
yeah.
buying and selling. So if I could say anything to you, I mightn't talk to him about your whole idea, but I think I would talk to him about buying vegetables, freezing vegetables, and all of that stuff, and just see what he knows. Because I'm telling you, the guy's smart.
Hmm.
That would be one of the things that I would do because we can't do it on our own. All right.
Okay.
Just
I'll
consider
do
it.
that.
I mean, I'll reach out to Mario and support you on this. Right? I don't mind saying to him, hey, Manuel's got a reasonable idea. Would you support him? I don't have any problem with asking him that at all. He's a good guy. What do you
Yeah,
think, Peppers?
he's. I mean, he's a great guy, but well, lots of times we have speak about doing a lot of things, and what I feel is like everything just starts and stops in words. No, never have I have never done with Mario, not even a cash flow play game. I've helped, I invite him like 6 or 7 times, and all the time,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Manuel,
So
he's busy, but you know what I'd ask him?
it's like I cannot trust him, not because he's bad guy, because he's not organized. I don't know the
Okay,
how to.
Manuel, I agree. But you know what I'd be doing? I'd be going and looking at his factory.
Okay.
I'd ask him if I could see the way they freeze vegetables, how they come in, all of that stuff. Because I can tell you right now, he's a couple feet in front of you on that. Whether he get it across the line, but it's a totally other matter because he's a dreamer. That's true. Will he get something done? I think you can see all the mistakes he made. One of the problems that we actually had is I spent most of my week there telling him all the things that look like crap. Right? And they got a lot of things that look like crap that if they're going to be an international business, if they're going to do what they say they're going to do, they had to lift their standard. Their standard was, like you're saying, all talk and no action. And in reality, their concepts are actually quite good. But I think you should look at their concepts, not the reality. Does that make sense to you? I'd be asking him, and I'd be asking him for a tour of the factory or the warehouse that they have with the freezers. I think you'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Don't sit down in a cafe and bullshit with him because he's a good bullshitter. That's true. But they also do a lot of stuff. They're also very untidy and very lack discipline. But that doesn't mean to say that they're conceptually they're not quite good. I would say that to you. I don't know, Raphael, am I off the mark?
No, you're absolutely spot on.
You've been as painfully abused as I have, so.
Oh yes.
I don't know. It's like.
No, but I agree with you. I mean, he's a few steps ahead of you, Manuel, and you can learn from him.
And accelerate some of your thoughts. I think that's very important.
Exactly. So get into action, get to visit his place and look at it, and then talk about things, but while doing things, look at the actual thing that he's doing.
And I'm telling you, you'll get ideas that will actually support what you're talking about right now, because he's not very digitally savvy, even though he thinks he is. He's not that digitally savvy. And technically, they're not that flash. But his younger brother is a very, very, very good food man. He understands nutrition very well, and I would want to talk to his younger brother.
Okay.
Nothing. You know, just because, and I've had lots of people say I'm full of crap and all the rest of it. So what? I might well be full of crap, but I'm also very experienced. All right. So Manuel, what I'd like to do is I'd like to share Ariana's agreement, because I don't want to leave the meeting without some level of what's going on there. What do you think, Raphael?
Yeah, go ahead. I may have to leave in a couple of minutes, but go ahead to support.
Yeah, well, I have to leave in a couple minutes too, but I'm not going to leave without supporting Oriana.
Okay, good. Let's do it then.
Okay, Oriana? Okay, let's I'll go faster than that. I do store everything. Okay, there you go. Where the heck is it? Got too many screens open. I think it's this one. No, it's not that. It's not that one. Oh my gosh! I hope I've saved it the way I thought I did. I thought I saved it in your name, Oriana. It should be there. Oriana, I'm gonna have to find it and not waste people's time right now. I'm gonna have to come back, but I'll tell you what I thought about it without sharing it on the screen. I thought that it lacked detail, and the detail that it lacked was who you are, right? And like some of the things that you developed around companies, all of that sound reasoning, but people don't know why you're doing it. They don't know the why of why you're so thorough. And I think you have to write a document before that document. So we can tighten up on the agreement, which I think you have to do. But I also think that you have to have maybe a 5 or 6 page before that to talk about what your idea, you know, what your concept and what you've gone through to get to that moment. You have to enroll people. That does not enroll people. It almost incarcerates.
Mm-hmm.
Raphael, I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Basically, what you want to find,
Oriana, you're on mute.
You're on mute. But again, yes, can you hear us?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
It's like explain my idea, right?
Explain who you are and what your idea is.
Why you're driving this. You're the driving force of the idea, and it doesn't get who you are. It's just like, here's my agreement, take it or leave it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the idea, the what you've done is actually really well, but you've got to enroll people in your thought, and you've got to trust that you're going to get the people that you want, right? And some of the language I think is too harsh. I don't know about you, Raphael.
Yeah. Basically, you start by saying, I cannot possibly trust you. So sign here so that I can trust you. I mean,
yeah, that's actually the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
I think that's succinct. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And it's like, then you put in all of these things that say, if you do all of this, I can trust you.
Yeah.
But I don't believe you can trust them even if they did all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I think you have to come up and you have to look at what you're trying to say in that, and you've got to make it, you've got to have your language of who you are. Right. I think that documents not who you are or who you even want to be. It's a document that protects you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't know that that's going to grow your business.
I understand.
You've got to give a macro view of your business. You've got to give a macro view of your idea. And you also have to be vulnerable. The agreement stops you from being vulnerable, but in whatever you write about why you're doing it and how you're going to do it, you're going to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the agreement protects you at some level. It mitigates that vulnerability. But there's, in my mind, there was nothing vulnerable about it. And there was nothing, like when I'm latching onto it, it's not the same person that I know on the call. Right? And it's good that you can write like that, but it's not the same person I talk to on the call.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Raphael?
I agree 100%. Yeah.
And I'll go line by line in that. I think your agreement, it can be sharpened up and better language used. for people who want to sign it. But I also think there needs to be more of an explanation, and you do it really well in videos, and you can do it both ways. You can do it in videos and in writing, and I think that that's really important. Now, I know you do have some videos which are really, in my mind, tend to be quite powerful because they actually get to see who you are, a young woman with a cause. You understand my point?
Yeah.
You might wear the little Che Guevara toque. All right, I won't take up any more time. Oriana, how do you feel? What do you take away?
I feel great. I really feel like I am part of something bigger than just me and my idea. Um, Getting together with you guys, I feel like we are doing something great. With the time, this will be great. And what I take away is how we define our ideas. The words define the limits of our reality, and they are very, very important because that becomes our language and is the way we communicate and relate with the people around us. We attract the people that we um, them similar, that our words are reality. So that is what I take away, and also be confident with everything, even if I feel like I am vulnerable with the situation. I am not. I have to trust on me and everything around me.
Exactly right. And you got to be accountable and responsible for yourself.
Yeah.
I think your idea fits in beautifully with Manuel's. Both of them are about exchange and the well-beingness of that exchange. There's no doubt in my mind that you're going to, between the two of you, you're going to come out with something that makes a lot of sense. And there's a whole movement in South America that thinks like you guys do. You've got to tap into that movement. And you mustn't be afraid to lead it.
Yeah. Wow.
Whether you like it or not, that's your quality.
Yeah, it is.
It goes beyond your smile, Oriana. That's on to Manuel.
Okay, Manuel, how do you feel? What do you take away?
I feel great. Thank you with all of you, Kelly, Rafa, and Ori, for your feedback and your interest about my idea. I'm very honored and I am very grateful with all of you because I felt you were very interested and very concerned about this is going to do very well. That's what I feel. Thank you everybody. What I take away, it's important to be clear and don't offer and what you don't want, and it's not possible to give. I mean, it's impossible to something happen passively. Everything has its activeness, and it's important to know to do every hacer más con menos.
Ever more with ever less.
Ever more with ever less. It's very important, and that's how nature works. That's how evolution works, and that's what I want to do in this idea and all my ideas. I want to buy time in order to do another important things. I think I am here to do as a mission of life. It's important to understand also the boundaries of every word, the macro and micro level of our thinking, because as Kelly, Oriana, and Rafa says, words gives you the boundaries, and it's very important to have this list. Thank you.
Manuel, if I could say anything
Yep.
to you, what's the single most important thing is to be yourself. You're a good guy.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, now I'm gonna do the diagram for everybody to share these ideas. I have this with your feedback. Keep growing. I'm gonna search talking to Mario and his family, and even the last time I went to Veggie Pizza, they didn't say hi to me. I don't know why, but I maybe search for it. You don't know, but
People are such emotional beings. I mean, please, let's get
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I'm gonna search for Mario. Last time I saw him in a coffee, he was like, okay. I like him. He's very nice, and yeah, he has a lot of experience in this market. Thank you for the advice. Yeah, that's what that's me. How do you feel? What do you take away from today, Rafa?
No, I feel very happy actually about your idea. And being very grateful and honored because you decided to share that with us and also put yourself at risk. Not just because we can take your idea, but because you know what sort of feedback we tend to give, which is straight and sometimes can seem harsh. But that's because we believe in you, we want to support you. The same with Oriana. We gave you some pretty tough feedback, didn't we, Oriana?
Yeah.
And she came through and she transformed. So I feel privileged to work with people like you, are able to take the feedback and act upon it and move forward. And my takeaway is that your courage, both of your courages actually. And also my takeaway is the importance of starting big, narrowing the idea, bouncing up ideas with other people, and start from there and start very macro and then go micro. So that's my takeaway. So Kelly, how do you feel about your takeaway?
I feel honored, Manuel, that you would risk because you're not the guy that takes a lot of risk about who you personally are. And so you've done a great job today, and I respect the fact that you've taken that risk. I also know that you're very cautious and considerate. And a lot of people may not get that about you, but you are. But you're very demanding. You demand as much from yourself as you do from other people. So I think that that's what is really very important that you understand. What I take away is we're moving. We're not passive anymore. We're actually moving. As a group, we're moving, and we could possibly make a difference. And that's what's important to me. It really is. I don't like being a slave to money. I really don't. And I have been a slave to money. I don't like it. I would rather create things and know that I can take care of my family through creating of something rather than this constantly, oh, I got to have this or I got to have that in terms of a money or an economic sense. That's just not me. It's taking me a lot of time to come to terms with that, but it's true. It's hard to motivate me for money. But you motivate me with an idea or a design, I'm into it. I'm all over it. But if you say, well, you can make $1 million, I'd say, yeah, $1 million is not really that hard to make, right? But making a difference is very hard, and I want to make a difference. So I take away that you guys are moving, and I'm very happy to see that. Oriana, I'm very happy to see and hear that you realize that at some moment you're right against that boundary. We've got to push through that, and we're going to push through that. So that's what I take away. Thank you for sharing, Oriana. I'll have a look at it and I'll send you an email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay,
See
bye-bye.
you next.